Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. The Young and the Restless Wednesday, January 29 recap, Victor and Ian both shot ambulance called to ranch. The Young and the Restless Y&R spoilers recap for Wednesday, January 29, reveals that Victor Newman Eric Braden will urge Ian Ward Ray Wise to lower his weapon and make a deal with him. Ian will decide he's going down anyway, so he'll resolve to go out in a blaze of glory and take the whole Newman clan down with him. With that in mind, Ian will threaten to shoot Nick Newman Joshua Morrow if Victor doesn't call the rest of his children to the ranch. After Victor gets Adam Newman Mark Grossman on the phone and summons him for an emergency, he'll seemingly do the same with Abby Newman Melissa Ordway. At one point on Wednesday's Y&R episode, Ian will knock out Victor's security guard so he can focus on his vengeful mission without interference. As for Michael Baldwin Christian LeBlanc, he'll be offered a chance to make a quick exit since he's not a blood Newman. However, Michael will insist on standing by Victor since he's been more of a father to him than the man who brought him into this world. Adam will walk into the chaos and fume over Ian holding the Newmans hostage. After Ian calls out to Nikki Newman Melody Thomas Scott upstairs, she'll come down with Victoria Newman Amelia Heinel and Claire Newman Haley Aaron. Ian will comment on the slumber party and wonder where Abby is, but Victor will eventually admit he didn't call her. Victoria will also try to convince Ian to let Claire go, but he'll think she's proven she's a Newman and will rant about her role in Jordan's Colleen Zenk demise. Ian will speculate that Claire lured Jordan into a trap and will confirm he lied earlier since Jordan was indeed his partner. After Ian admits he fell in love with Jordan, he'll insist on getting justice for her. Victor will be willing to sacrifice himself as long as the rest of his family lives and will try to work out a deal for Ian to leave the property with him. Although Victor will claim he can call off security, take a ride with Ian somewhere and transfer a fortune, Ian won't be interested in his money. Ian will want to see Victor's carcass on the floor, so he'll intend on wiping out the Newmans one by one and he'll plan on saving Nikki for last so she can watch. After Ian pushes Victor to choose which child dies first, Victor will maintain that he's the only one who needs to be involved here. Ian will finally fire a shot at Victor, so the other Newmans will scramble to tend to him and stop the bleeding. Victor will ultimately lunge at Ian and struggle with him over the gun, so Ian will end up taking a bullet to the gut. An ambulance will be called, but Ian will assume it's coming for Victor and will invite Nick to finish him off. Nick will refuse since doesn't kill people in cold blood like Ian and will admit it'd be pretty cool to watch him slowly suffer. Nearby, Victor will have a hard time staying conscious on the sofa as Victoria tries to stop the bleeding in his abdomen. Nikki will also urge Victor to stay with her as she tries to reassure him about the help that's on the way. The Young and the Restless spoilers say an EMT will arrive soon enough, so we'll bring you more medical predictions and updates on all the shocking news to come. The January 29 episode of The Young and the Restless delivered high-stakes drama at the Newman Ranch as a long-brewing rivalry between Victor Newman and Ian Ward exploded into chaos, leaving both men shot and an ambulance racing to the scene. As the episode began, tension simmered beneath the surface. Victor Newman, ever the patriarch and protector of his empire, sensed that trouble was brewing. His instincts were razor-sharp, and for good reason. Ian Ward had slithered back into Genoa City with a vengeance. Despite multiple warnings and a long history of deceptions, Ian was determined to exact revenge on Victor, whom he blamed for his repeated downfalls. Victor had arranged a private meeting with Ian at the Newman Ranch, intending to put an end to his manipulations once and for all. Little did he know, Ian had other plans. The confrontation started with words sharp and biting, laced with years of resentment and animosity. Victor, his commanding presence unwavering, warned Ian to leave town immediately. But Ian, with his characteristic smugness, taunted Victor, implying that he had one final move left to make. Meanwhile, Nikki Newman had an uneasy feeling about Victor's decision to face Ian alone. She confided in Nick, who shared her concern. "Dad knows how to handle himself," Nick reassured her, but even he couldn't shake off the sense of impending disaster. At the ranch, the conversation between Victor and Ian quickly escalated into a volatile argument. Ian accused Victor of ruining his life, of crushing him at every turn. Victor, unbothered by Ian's theatrics, remained calm but firm. "You brought this upon yourself," Victor declared. "You made your choices. And now you're facing the consequences." Ian reached into his coat pocket, his movements slow and deliberate. Victor's eyes narrowed as he instinctively braced himself. And then it happened. A single gunshot rang out, shattering the stillness of the Newman ranch. The moment seemed frozen in time. Victor staggered back, gripping his side as crimson blossomed across his shirt. But in true Victor Newman fashion, he wasn't going down without a fight. As Ian smirked in triumph, Victor summoned his remaining strength, reached into his own jacket, and fired back. Another gunshot. Another body hit the ground. Both men lay sprawled on the floor, their breathing ragged, their blood staining the luxurious rug beneath them. The eerie silence that followed was soon shattered by the frantic sound of approaching footsteps. Nick and Nikki burst into the room, horror painting their faces as they took in the scene. "Victor!" Nikki screamed, rushing to his side. Nick immediately grabbed his phone, his hands shaking as he dialed 911. "We need an ambulance at the Newman Ranch now." As paramedics arrived, the tension in the air was palpable. The EMTs worked quickly, assessing the injuries. Victor, though wounded, was conscious, his stubborn resilience refusing to let him succumb to his injuries. Ian, however, was in worse shape, his breath coming in short gasps. Police officers swarmed the property, questions flying in every direction. Victoria and Adam soon arrived, their expressions a mixture of fear and fury. Adam's eyes locked onto his father, who winced as paramedics secured him onto a stretcher. "Dad, you're going to be okay," Adam said, though uncertainty flickered behind his gaze. Victor, never one to show weakness, mustered a smirk despite the pain. "Of course I am, son. The mustache doesn't go down that easy." Meanwhile, Ian's fate hung in the balance. As he was wheeled toward an ambulance, his gaze flickered toward Victor. Even in his weakened state, there was a glint of defiance in his eyes. "This isn't over," he rasped. Back at the Newman estate, Nikki's hands trembled as she clung to Nick. "I told him not to face Ian alone," she whispered, tears threatening to spill over. "I should have stopped him." Nick tightened his grip on her shoulders. "Mom, Dad's going to be fine. He's strong." But the worry in his voice was unmistakable. Over at the hospital, tensions remained high as the doctors worked to stabilize Victor and Ian. Victoria and Adam paced outside the emergency room, their differences momentarily set aside in their shared concern for their father. "What if this is the time he doesn't come out on top?" Victoria voiced the fear they were all thinking but dared not say. Adam exhaled sharply. "He will. He has to." Meanwhile, in another part of the hospital, Ian's condition remained critical. A detective questioned him as best he could, but Ian, ever the master manipulator, smirked weakly. "Let's just say, this town hasn't seen the last of me yet." The episode ended on a nail-biting cliffhanger. Would Victor pull through? Would Ian survive? And most importantly, what fallout would this violent confrontation bring to Genoa City? One thing was certain, the battle between Victor Newman and Ian Ward was far from over.